Goff, pressure, in trouble, throws on the run, incomplete! Hardman, jackpot, Kansas City!
Screw this season, man. The 2023 NFL postseason was one that had a strong handful of curses being broken and narratives being reinforced. And it was one of the most exciting playoff stretches in recent memory, as long as you didn't watch the Chiefs at all. From the Cousins curse, the so-called short-lived Josh Allen curse, and the Cowboys doing what the Cowboys do best. I am Nick Abolas, and this is the NFL Playoffs in Review. Why don't we start off with narratives being reinforced, and the one that caused the collective NFL world to cheer in unison, the Cowboys being overhyped. To be very blunt, the Packers went into Dallas and absolutely rocked the Cowboys, at one point being up 34-10, and the Prescott-led offense had zero answers for a defense called by Joe fucking Barry. Remember that Joe Barry was the defensive coordinator for the 0-16 Lions. Damn. Meanwhile, that left the elite Cowboys defense on their back foot with little room for mistakes, and LaFleur proved that he was in fact the right choice for the Packers over continuing to stick with McCarthy. On the flip side of that, the Packers enforced the narrative that they can't beat the Niners when it matters most. This one goes all the way back to 1998 and is still going strong, except for that one time in 2001. Despite having the game in their hands, they couldn't stop the Niners' comeback. Wonder if a certain weak point in the coaching staff can be blamed for that, or Jordan Love playing hero ball. Either way, when it comes to the Mike Shanahan coaching tree, it seems that as long as Sean McVay isn't in the way, Kyle Shanahan has had the most success in the playoffs. And speaking of McVay, I know I'm talking about reinforced narratives right now, but I want to mention that despite the loss, Matthew Stafford didn't turn the ball over and the Rams lost to the Lions, which is something he struggled with in the past. Another narrative that started during the regular season and was enforced in the playoffs is the Dolphins being unable to beat a team with a winning record. You can say, well, the weather was bad. The Chiefs had to play in it too. While yes, they have an advantage as it is their home field, I won't accept that as an excuse. To only put up 7 fucking points is rather embarrassing when you're the highest scoring team during the regular season, especially after the collapse that led to the Bills winning the division. And speaking of the Bills, I am acknowledging the Bills. I'm gonna be completely honest, they've gone through enough pain this season. I'll just show these two plays and move on. So, Shanahan, you gonna stop blowing double-digit leads in the Super Bowl? It all started with 28-3, and now you've been to the Super Bowl twice, held a 10-point lead for a good portion of those 2 games, and managed to lose them both. Oh, and both those losses were against the Chiefs. I don't know what it is, but he always outcoaches himself. Whether it's just abandoning the run when the other team is doing their best to make a comeback, or when the run has been almost unstoppable, or getting too cute with the play calls. He seems to make things way too hard for himself. Now there's a couple lucky plays this time around going the Chiefs' way you could say led to the comeback. Your offense was only on the field for 9 plays, and you only run one of those 9 plays. Your play calling needs to be called into question. Shanahan needs to be put under a massive microscope for this. The last narrative that was reinforced in these playoffs I want to talk about is the Steelers being the ultimate stuck-in-the-middle-of-the-road team. Yeah, sure, they're going to have a winning record, but their last postseason win was almost a decade ago. They need to figure out that offense, otherwise they're always going to limit the playoffs, carried by their defense, or more specifically, TJ Watt, and ask JJ how that played out for him. Now I'm done talking about the reinforced narratives, time for the broken narratives and curses, starting with the Lions. The Lions hadn't won a playoff game since 1992. It had been 32 years since their last playoff win, and they ended up winning 2 in 2024. Making it to the NFC Championship game. They weren't exactly wins either, as the Rams only lost by 1 point. Bucs attempted a comeback that made it just 8 points short. They even had a 17-point lead against the Niners in the conference championship, but they wound up losing by 3 after the Niners put up 27 unanswered. And with that win, the Niners broke the curse that had been stronger than the Madden curse, the Cousins curse. Since being drafted, no team that had lost to a team where Kirk Cousins was the starter had even made it to the Super Bowl. And before someone comes in saying, well, what about the 2012 Ravens? That's why I said started. because RG3 started that game before leaving what would become his infamous leg injury. The Niners almost didn't, as both the Packers and Lions held leads on them that they had to come back from. Also, a side note, it seems that some people on social media have extended the Cousins curse. It's not just making it to the Super Bowl anymore, now it's winning. I don't know how I feel about that, because the narrative had always been making it to the Super Bowl. Let's see how next year goes, and if every team that loses to Kirk Cousins fails to win the Super Bowl, I guess the curse continues. I'll allow it. Not that you're asking me or anything. Now, the final curse narrative that was broken during this year's playoffs was honestly a weak one, and that's why I kind of left it for last, being the Josh Allen curse. For the past 4 years, all 4 teams that had beaten the Josh Allen-led Bills had lost the very next game, starting with the 2019 Texans, who lost to the Chiefs. The next year, the Chiefs lost to Tampa in the Super Bowl. The year after that, the Chiefs lost to the Bengals in the Conference Championship. And then last year, the Bengals lost to the Chiefs, also in the Conference Championship. This one feels weak to me simply because the curse has only lasted for 4 years. Oh, it was a fun stat for people to bring up. The Ravens had stomped the 2 teams playing in the NFC Championship game, and if they had beaten the Chiefs, would probably have been something we'd hear about until someone didn't lose a playoff game after eliminating the Bills. The Chiefs didn't lose, and 4 years isn't long enough for me to call it a curse, as the Cousins curse has existed for 3 times as long. But anyways, has there been any narratives that were broken or strongly reinforced this past season that I didn't mention and you'd like to hear talked about more? I'd love to hear about it and might talk about it myself. I've been Nicol Bolas, and thank you for listening.